Good morning, guten morgen, que kalimera, and welcome for another installment of E.G.G. E.G.G is an acronym for English, German, Greek, and here we are going to be taking words and phrases from English and translating them to German and then to Greek. And this morning, mostly what I want to talk about is pronunciation. And we're going to be doing a little bit of textual criticism as we're going to be examining one of the most criticized texts of all time, and that's the first two verses from the Gospel of John from the New Testament. As always, when I do these Bible verse videos, I use the most popular version in each respective language, which here are the King James in English, the Luther Bible in German, and the granddaddy of them all, the Textus Receptus in Greek. Pronunciation. In another video I talk about dialect, but let's talk about pronunciation. I speak American English as my first language. I have a regional accent from the upper Midwest of the United States. Although I make a great effort to try and articulate myself and sound like a standard American English speaker, I still have a regional accent. And this comes out in every language that I speak, although I make tremendous efforts to try and emulate the speech of native speakers in every language. Which is one of the differences that I'll be doing here in Greek. As I approach the Bible text, I'll be pronouncing it as a modern Greek speaker, not as a classical Greek speaker. So that'll be a little bit different. In German, I have quite an advantage as far as pronunciation goes, as my grandparents were native speakers and my father was bilingual, and I spoke some German as a child. However, this was a High Swiss dialect which bears little resemblance to the standardized German that's spoken now in the media. So I went back and I corrected my German, and I tried to emulate the sound that they speak on TV in Germany, of course. So, with varying degrees of success. In Greek, I'm just an intermediate student, but I do notice the difference between how an American pronounces Greek text and how a native Greek speaker pronounces Greek text, and I think the native Greek speakers sound so much more eloquent and beautiful when they recite the text that I certainly would rather emulate them than sound like a cowboy reciting Plato. So, with all that in mind, let's take a look at one of the most famous passages of the whole New Testament, and that's John 1, verse 1. So, John chapter 1, verse 1 and verse 2 in the King James English go, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God." Now, the first thing we notice when we compare the texts is that the word order in verse 1 is a little bit different. Instead of the Word was God, God was the Word, in both the Greek and the German. So, that's no big deal. That's 6 of one and a half a dozen of the other. Word order isn't such a big deal. However, in ancient languages, word order is often used to emphasize something, but we'll leave it at that. Now, another textual difference that I notice is that it's in the Greek prepositional phrase, which appears in both verses, proston theon. Proston theon. Now, as any first-year Greek student can tell you, the preposition pros, when combined with the accusative ton theon, is translated as toward. So if I were looking at this text and translating it into English without knowing the other translations, I would translate it as, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was toward God, and God was the Word. The same," or He, "was in the beginning toward God." I'm not going to pretend to understand or explain this difference. I just noticed that it exists. I'm just a reporter here. So let's jump right into the German pronunciation. So in the beginning in German is im Anfang. Im Anfang war das Wort. Und das Wort war bei Gott. Und Gott war das Wort. Entschuldigen. Und Gott war das Wort. Dasselbe war im Anfang by God. So, we see the same thing in the Greek. Now, im Anfang, im is a contraction of in, the preposition, just the same as it used in English, and the, dem, in the dative case. Good. Der Anfang is a masculine noun. Remember, we have to pronounce that G a little bit throatier. Der Anfang, im Anfang war, was, das Wort. Now, Wort, and we Have to try and pronounce that. Wart. Rhymes more with fart than it does with word. It looks like wort, but it's really a schwa sound with a, starts with a V sound and then a schwa. Wart. Das Wart. Bei Gott. At God or by God. By is translated both ways. Und Gott war das Wort. And God was the word. Dasselbe, the same, war im Anfang bei Gott, in the beginning with God. So when we get to the Greek text, we only have one letter that's questionable to pronounce, and that's the letter that we call chi, the X, and we hear it as a hard H in some pronunciations, and we can also hear it even like a K sound. I hear some American professors saying archi for this word. And the word in question is archi, archi, in archi. And N is just like the Spanish N, or means in archi, in beginning, in the beginning. Actually, it doesn't have an article, so it could be translated in a beginning, or the way I like it, in beginning. It's more mysterious. In beginning, in the beginning. In archi, in, and that's a past continuous, so it was. O logos, and everybody knows o logos. Ke o logos proston theon, and the word was by God. Ke theos, now it's in the accusative, God, theos, the one that most people know, because we don't consider case very much in English. So when we say, how do you say God in Greek? We say theos, right? So theos in was o logos, the word. Utos, this is the masculine he, so he, in archi, in the beginning, proston theon, with God. Proston theon, that's the takeaway from this. Proston theon, that's a preposition in Greek that means with God. It's universally translated with God or at God, but the literal translation would be toward God. Well, that's going to do it for this one. We're going to go back and we're going to analyze the grammar and the writing of these two languages and these verses and compare the grammar in a more unpacking way. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. God bless.